Many thanks, Gimba. A training camp for the home-based Super Eagles will be open on October the 11th ahead of a 2016 African Nations Championship qualifier against Burkina Faso. Reports say head coach Sunday Olise and his backroom staff will return from a friendly against Cameroon and begin training with the domestic players from the domestic league thereafter. Nigeria will host the first leg qualifier on October the 18th with the return leg in Ouagadougou a week later. To the English Premier League, where Super Eagles forward Odion Ighalo has continued his rich vein of form, scoring twice for Watford in their 2-1 win over Newcastle United. The 26-year-old has now scored 4 goals from 6 games this season in the EPL. Another Nigerian international, Victor Moses, scored for West Ham's opener to help the Hammers stun Manchester City 2-1 at the Etihad. In other results, Chelsea beat Arsenal 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. AFC Bournemouth beat Sunderland by 2-0. West Brom beat Aston Villa by 1-0. Stoke and Leicester battled to a 2-2 draw, while Swansea and Everton played goalless. Sebastian Vettel will start Sunday's Singapore Grand Prix on pole after emerging victorious by over half a second in the qualifying sessions. Vettel put in a fine performance to qualify fastest by 0.543 seconds ahead Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo, as Ferrari claimed their first pole since the 2012 German Grand Prix. Japan has pulled off perhaps the biggest upset in Rugby World Cup history by defeating 2-time champion South Africa 34-32 in their Pool B opener. Despite trailing 10-12 at half-time, Kane Hesketh raced in at the corner in the 84th minute to snatch victory in overtime. Japan, who got 23 points from fullback Ayumu Goromaru, hadn't won a World Cup game since 1991. And that's it on sports news. Gimba will be back with the rest of the news at 10.
The head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, has arrived in the Cuban capital, Havana, on his first visit to the island. The Catholic pontiff will spend 4 days in Cuba before flying to the US. Pope Francis arrived in Havana airport this afternoon and was welcomed by President Paul Castro. Pope Francis says that the Church will continue to support and encourage the Cuban people in its hope of concerns and ask Cuba and the US to persevere on the path of policy. He applauds the improving relationship between the two countries as an example of reconciliation for the whole world. Dozens of migrants have entered Austria through a border crossing with Slovenia. They were subjected to tough checks in a bid to slow down the influx. But before now, Hungary has criticized Croatia, saying that it was participating in people smuggling. About 500,000 people have crossed the Mediterranean to Europe so far this year. And the main news again. The new commandant of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Air Vice Marshal Suleiman Dambo, has said that the college would review its academic and training curriculum to meet the demands of the current Boko Haram insurgents. And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has warned the Boko Haram insurgents to surrender or face the full force of the nation's military capability. And Hannah Awolowo, the wife of one of Nigeria's most respected politicians, Obafemi Awolowo, has died at the age of 99. And Austria has said that it expects at least 10,000 migrants to arrive amidst bitter row amongst EU nations. And that's how it's been on the news at 10 tonight. I want to thank you so much indeed for being a part of it. I'm Gimba Umar on behalf of the entire production crew. Have a splendid night rest. Good night.